we have mutually decided that I would no longer be the head football coach with the Dallas Cowboys.
Jimmy, how many times have I looked at you and you inspired me, man?
Why Jimmy Johnson hates Jerry Jones. That's the story everyone thought they knew. Two titans of the NFL locked in an endless war over credit and control. But on a cold December night in 2023, something remarkable happened. At AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Jerry Jones stood on the field and welcomed Jimmy Johnson into the Cowboys Ring of Honor. The two men embraced. After nearly 30 years of cold silence, the feud that had defined and damaged America's team finally seemed to be over. But how did we get here? How did two men who built one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history end up in a bitter feud that cost them everything? The story starts in 1989. Jerry Jones, an oil wildcatter from Arkansas, bought the Dallas Cowboys for a record $140 million. The team was losing money and relevance. Jones shocked the football world by firing Tom Landry, the only coach the Cowboys had ever known. People called it sacrilege, a brash outsider destroying a sacred institution. Jones replaced Landry with his old college teammate, Jimmy Johnson. They had played together on Arkansas's undefeated 1964 national championship team. Johnson had just won a national title at the University of Miami, but NFL insiders dismissed him as just a college coach. The deal between them seemed simple. Jones would handle the business side. Johnson would control all football operations. They would make history together. The first season was a disaster. The Cowboys went 1-15, the worst record in franchise history. Critics felt vindicated, but Johnson was executing a master plan. He traded their only star, running back Herschel Walker, to Minnesota for a massive haul of draft picks. Those picks became the foundation of a dynasty. Emmitt Smith, Russell Maryland, Darren Woodson. Combined with Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin, Johnson built a roster of smaller, faster players that would dominate the league. The turnaround was shockingly fast. Just 3 years after going 1-15, the Cowboys were champions. In January 1993, they crushed Buffalo 52-17 in Super Bowl 27. The next year, they beat the Bills again, 30-13, winning back-to-back championships. In January 1994, Jones and Johnson stood together at the top of the sports world. Their controversial partnership had been vindicated, but success created a new problem. When they were losing, their goals aligned perfectly. Jones needed to pay off loans and fill suites. Johnson needed to prove his system worked. They communicated daily, united against a skeptical world. Once they won, the question became who deserved the credit, and that's where everything fell apart. Jerry Jones was never content to stay in the shadows. He saw himself as a football architect, not just a checkbook. He pioneered a new model of NFL ownership where the man signing the checks was also the president, general manager, and public face of the franchise. Jones craved recognition for his football knowledge. He openly admitted he liked stirring controversy to keep the Cowboys in the headlines. He believed power was everything, and his personality demanded control. Johnson was the opposite, a football purist who demanded total authority. His genius came from two places, an unmatched eye for talent and a masterful command of psychological motivation. His players called him maniacal about winning. Johnson later said Jones didn't meddle with plays or personnel. The problem was simpler. Jones just wanted credit. But Johnson had a pattern too. He had a history of leaving coaching jobs after about 5 years. Some called it a wandering soul. Here's something most people don't know. In 1990, Jones personally paid Johnson's $1 million divorce settlement. In exchange, Johnson signed a contract giving Jones control over all his off-field income from TV and radio until the debt was repaid. Jones wasn't just Johnson's boss, he was his creditor. This created a pressure cooker where every disagreement carried hidden weight. This tangled web of professional and personal debt added explosive fuel to an already volatile relationship. The conflict between them represented more than clashing egos. It was a collision between two emerging archetypes in modern football, the owner as brand manager versus the coach as football CEO. When the team was losing, their roles worked together. Jones needed a winning product. Johnson was empowered to create it. But with 2 Super Bowl trophies in hand, their functions became adversarial. Jones saw the dynasty as a brand he built, with the coach as an employee. Johnson saw the team as an organization he constructed and managed, with the owner providing capital. Their very success made continued partnership impossible. The cracks started showing during the 1992 draft. ESPN cameras were in the Cowboys' war room for the first time. Jones pulled Johnson aside and told him to look at him whenever they were about to make a pick. He wanted it to appear they were discussing decisions together. Johnson was furious. He saw it as Jones trying to manufacture credit for player selections that were Johnson's alone. He briefly stormed out before returning. The incident exposed the core conflict, Jones's deep need for public validation of his football expertise. So here's the question. If you were building a dynasty, would you want everyone to know your role in it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. The breaking point came in March 1994, just 2 months after their second Super Bowl victory. Jones made a comment to reporters that would change everything. He said Any coach, or more specifically, 500 coaches, could have led that talented roster to a Super Bowl victory. For Johnson, who had masterminded every trade and draft pick that built that roster, the comment was a public betrayal. It was like spitting in the face of the man who made Jones rich and famous. But Johnson wasn't just a victim. He was playing his own game. In late 1993, right before a crucial game to decide the NFC East title, Johnson openly flirted with becoming head coach of the expansion Jacksonville Jaguars. He used the Cowboys' own facility and podium to discuss it publicly. Jones was furious. Johnson saw it as establishing his worth. Jones saw it as disloyalty at a critical moment. The 500 coaches comment wasn't just ego. It was strategy. Johnson's public dalliance with the Jaguars sent a clear message. He believed his value was independent of the Cowboys. He didn't need Jerry Jones to be successful. This directly challenged Jones's status as the patriarch and architect of the dynasty. So Jones fired back, telling the world the coach was replaceable. The real genius was the roster. His roster. It was a calculated power play designed to devalue Johnson and reframe the narrative. It backfired by destroying their relationship, but it revealed what Jones truly believed. The system he funded and the talent he acquired were the keys to victory, not the coach. This belief would define the Cowboys for the next 30 years. The final explosion happened at the NFL owners' meetings in Orlando in March 1994. The Cowboys arrived as two-time defending champions, but tension filled the air. At a restaurant in Walt Disney's Pleasure Island, Johnson held court with former assistants and reporters. With drinks flowing, he unleashed a torrent of insults at Jones. He called him a buffoon, a liar, a jerk, and incompetent. He aired every grievance, including the draft room incident. This wasn't private anymore. It was a public declaration of contempt. Then Jones approached the table with Cowboys executive Larry Lacewell. He raised his glass to toast the success of the Dallas Cowboys. The table, which included people Jones had fired, ignored him completely. Jones tried again. Silence. Humiliated in front of his peers and the media, Jones slammed his glass down and stormed away as people snickered. It was the final, unforgivable insult. Jones retreated to a hotel lobby bar. He vented to friends and, crucially, to Dallas sports writers Ed Werder and Rick Gosselin. Jones was done. He told them he should have fired Jimmy and brought in Barry Switzer long ago. He told the writers to stay close. They wouldn't want to miss the biggest story of the year. Werder later recalled Jones telling him directly and profanely that he was going to fire Johnson. The partnership was over. The next few days were filled with tense negotiations. On March 28th, Jones and Johnson met to discuss their options. They explored everything from Johnson coaching one final season to an immediate split, but trust was gone. The public insults made working together impossible. Johnson walked into Jones's office and said simply, "It's time." On March 29th, 1994, just 59 days after winning their second straight Super Bowl, Jones and Johnson sat together at a press conference. They announced a mutual agreement for Johnson to step down. Jones gave Johnson $2 million and voided his contract. Johnson was free. The official story was mutual. The reality was messy. Jones wanted to be the undisputed star. Johnson felt his contributions were being minimized. Many fans saw it as Jones's ego forcing out a brilliant coach. But Troy Aikman offered a different view. Jimmy orchestrated the thing brilliantly, Aikman said. He wanted out, he saw a crack, and he took it. He got a ton of money, and everyone felt sorry for him. This suggests Johnson wasn't just a victim. He was an active participant in engineering his exit. He had grown tired of the power struggle. True to his 5-year pattern, he may have been ready for something new. He goaded Jones, leveraged the fallout, and secured his freedom with a big payout. It wasn't a simple firing or resignation. It was the inevitable conclusion of a power struggle where neither man would bend. Jones quickly hired Barry Switzer, another Arkansas teammate and coaching rival. The 1994 season was strong at 12-4, but ended with a bitter loss to San Francisco in the NFC Championship. The next year, bolstered by the addition of superstar cornerback Deion Sanders, the Cowboys won Super Bowl 30, beating Pittsburgh. 3 championships in 4 years. An incredible achievement, but this victory damaged the franchise long-term. The win was widely seen as a triumph with Jimmy's players. For Jones, though, it validated his 500 coaches theory. It proved the owner's talent evaluation was what mattered. The coach was interchangeable. This belief became the franchise's fatal flaw. It set them on a 3-decade path of prioritizing owner control over coaching autonomy. Super Bowl 30 remains their last championship. In nearly 30 years since, the Cowboys haven't even returned to an NFC championship game. The prolonged failure stands in stark contrast to the dynasty's potential in 1994. Johnson's departure wasn't just a coaching change. It was the demolition of a structure built on clear roles and singular football authority. In its place rose an organization that would run on Jerry's terms. The players who formed the dynasty's core have chronicled the squandered opportunity. Troy Aikman spoke with frustration about the leadership failure. The players were taught to sacrifice individual glory for the team, but the 2 guys leading the organization couldn't do it. Aikman firmly believes that if Johnson had stayed, the Cowboys would have been knocking on the door for championships every year. His own legacy and those of his teammates would have been greater. Michael Irvin is even more direct. He believes the feud cost them a few Super Bowls. A dynasty capable of winning 4 or 5 straight was cut short. He saw potential slipping away not because of declining talent, talent, but because of a broken relationship between two men at the top. Johnson returned to coaching with Miami from 1996 to 1999. He led the Dolphins to the playoffs in 3 of 4 seasons, but never replicated his Dallas success. His tenure ended with a brutal 62-7 playoff loss to Jacksonville. This showed that while Johnson was brilliant, the unique chemistry and organizational alignment he enjoyed in Dallas weren't easily recreated. The enduring legacy isn't just about lost championships, it's about the permanent organizational philosophy Jones installed. The Johnson era was defined by a head coach with absolute football authority. That model produced a great dynasty. The split was when Jones reclaimed that authority, establishing a precedent that has lasted 3 decades. Since Johnson left, Jones has hired coaches willing to work within his owner-centric framework rather than ceding ultimate control to another powerful football mind. This created a dual authority structure where the owner's public persona and desire for credit conflict with the head coaches need to be the singular voice. The organization is perfectly designed for financial success and media dominance, but it created a glass ceiling preventing a return to the Super Bowl. For decades after the split, Jones and Johnson remained distant. Johnson became a TV analyst for Fox Sports, where his larger-than-life personality made him a fixture on the nation's top pre-game show. From this prominent platform, he often offered pointed critiques of the Cowboys. Meanwhile, Jones repeatedly delayed Johnson's induction into the Cowboys Ring of Honor. While dynasty players were enshrined one by one, the coach's absence symbolized unresolved conflict at the heart of the franchise's history. As years passed and the championship drought continued, Jones's tone softened. The bravado of the 1990s gave way to moments of reflection and apparent regret. In a 2021 interview, Jones choked up discussing the split. "My role was to keep it together. It was my job," he admitted. "Should have had deference to something that was working good." He confessed, "I've never been able to know why I messed it up." These statements marked a shift, acknowledging his culpability in breaking up a historic partnership. After Johnson's 2020 Pro Football Hall of Fame induction made his exclusion from the team's own honor roll even more conspicuous, pressure mounted on Jones. In November 2023, during a live Fox pregame show, Jones appeared with Johnson and made the announcement everyone had waited for. Jimmy Johnson would finally enter the Cowboys Ring of Honor. The ceremony happened on December 30th, 2023 at AT&T Stadium. During halftime of a game against Detroit, the event served as an emotional capstone to the dynasty's story. Johnson's name was unveiled next to Tom Landry's, making him only the second coach to receive the honor. On the field were Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin, the pillars of his championship teams. In their speeches, both Jones and Johnson emphasized shared success over past conflict. "I think we're past who gets credit," Johnson said. "The two of us working together made history." Jones praised Johnson as one of the most gifted people he'd ever known. For players and fans who lived through the dynasty and its aftermath, the moment provided a powerful sense of closure. Aikman declared from the broadcast booth after joining the ceremony on the field, "The circle has been closed tonight. Today, the two men claim a mended relationship. They speak regularly." Johnson says he's back in the fold, offering informal advice to his old friend and boss. Yet complexity endures. In a recent Netflix documentary chronicling the dynasty years, fundamental disagreements about who deserved credit for key decisions like the Herschel Walker trade still exist. Johnson hinted the documentary skewed toward Jones's version of the truth, a subtle reminder that while the war may be over, the battle over the narrative continues. Theirs is a story of friendship and partnership that reached the highest peaks of sport, shattered under the weight of its own success, and took 30 years to formally, if not completely, put back together. Two men who proved they could build a dynasty together, but couldn't share the glory. And in the end, that cost them everything. So what do you think? Could the Cowboys have won more championships if Jones and Johnson had stayed together? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you learned something new about this legendary feud, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from sports history. Thanks for watching.